Welcome to I Testify Conversation Station. Today's topic is hopeless romantics. It's your girl Mel
with your girl Naywell
and Chantal,
and it's a all girls cast. While pure love will take God into all its plans and will be in perfect harmony with the Spirit of God, passion will be headstrong, rash, unreasonable, defiant of all restraint, and will make the object of its choice an idol. By Ellen G. White. Now, for our discussion today, it'll be broken into 3 parts. Number 1, an example of a hopeless, lovesick romantic in the Bible. Number 2, the caution. And lastly, the promise. See, with every promise is a condition. And if you meet the condition, then God is morally obligated to come through on his part. What is a hopeless romantic?
Well, a hopeless romantic, I think, is, that idea of what love should be. Magical. You're with your partner 24/7. They cater to you. They love you. I guess just having that person to be right there with you. And I think a lot of people just have that idea of what love should look like through like social media and stuff, what relationship goals are that.
They look at their life as almost incomplete without that, right? Where we know that we look in the Bible, we look at just general advice, and we know that there's more to life than just finding that romantic partner.
Right.
Other relationships that you should be focusing on, the relationship with God and things like that, where they would be so dire for that they would almost forget the other things. And I think that's the issue. It's that it's not the seeking for the love, but it's the excess. It's
that's it. That's yes. Exactly what I was looking for. So being hopeless is to be in despair.
Yes.
Reason is thrown out. Judgment is gone right out the window.
Yep.
And now you're driven by passion. And that's what our quote today is highlighting, that it's not the need for love. Because everyone, God put that thing in every human being to want love, to want to be romantic. That's natural. That's something that's in us.
Yes.
But it's another thing when it's driven by passion and reason. Like I said, reason is checked out the door. And you're just making irrational decisions, and you fall into things that are not necessarily in alignment with what God wants.
Yes.
And I think there's also another L word, lust, also plays into that as well. Sometimes you just lusting after someone, not having that expectation, but just wanting that relationship, just having someone with you. And that could be detrimental as well.
And I think it's that desperation that leads to that.
Right.
Because you get to a point where you are so desperate to fulfill that void that you feel is there, that you will fill it with things that aren't actually fulfilling.
So that brings us to the first part of our discussion, which is looking at examples of lovesick, hopeless, desperate romantics in the Bible. And so we'll start with Miss Chantal. Now tell us about your example that you chose.
Well, I think hopefully everyone knows the story of Samson and Delilah. So we'll look at Judges, and it kind of shows that Samson went to a town and he saw this beautiful lady, Delilah, and he went back and told his parents, I want her.
Yes.
But his parents gave him some wise advice and said, shouldn't you look for a woman within our own culture? Wise advice. But Sir Samson did not listen. Okay, so he went and took her as his wife.
Right.
But the people around her, wanted to know, why was he so strong? Why can't we defeat him?
Where's his power coming from?
And so they paid lovely Delilah. Remember, she's his wife now. And so she would do some nice things for him, and she would ask him, tell me what your strength is. He would give her a riddle and say, if you tie me up in some ropes, then they can't defeat me. Didn't work. Tried and tried again. And then the last time he finally told her, after his parents told him not to tell anyone. So she cut his hair while he was sleeping. And then the Philistine army came in and they got him. And he got defeated in the end. So he didn't listen to his parents.
All right. And Miss Shanae, tell us about your choice of the example.
So when I thought of a hopeless romantic, I automatically thought of Jacob, which you can find the story of Jacob in Genesis 29. And it's when he actually went to a far land and he met a woman. And clearly they hit it off right away. She ran home and told her father about this man that she had met. And so he also followed along and went to this house. And the father actually said to him, because he was looking for work, he was far from home, so he was looking for work. And her father said that he wasn't going to accept him working, Jacob working there for nothing. What does he want? And out of anything that he could have chose, he actually said that I will work for you for 7 years if I could have your daughter. Right? And it was unfortunate for him that he had worked for 7 years and he wanted the daughter, so he wanted Rachel, but he actually got another daughter, Leah. So he decided that he was so set on this woman that he had met and that he was so head over heels in love with her and something about her that he decided to work another 7 years, not for pay, not for anything else, but for the wife that he had set out for. And so he did, and in the end, he did end up with both the wives, but that was so dire for him, and it was that, love at first sight, that 14 years of work for love at first sight.
He put in time. He put in serious time.
That's serious. So that's definitely who I thought of when I thought of hopeless romantic.
And when I thought of hopeless romantic, I thought of King Solomon. He had 1,000 wives. And he thought, you can find the story in 1 Kings, but he thought that he could somehow, by his influence and example, turn his wives into pretty much to be true worshipers of God, because they were from idolatrous nations. And deception, the biggest deception is to think that you can transform someone. And in fact, it ended up changing him. And so he pretty much lost his way, lost his kingdom, everything. He lost everything that he ever built, all because of the dire, like you're saying, the dire need of just falling in love and wanting love. So much love for him, at least. So what are the similarities between these three stories? What can we see? What is that underlying issue that we see that's leading these so-called men to make these rash decisions, overthrow kingdoms, walk out of God's will, and literally be punished for? What are some of the similarities that you see? Or what are some of the lessons that we can learn from it if we just dissect them? So let's start with Chantel's story.
Well, in terms of Samson, he didn't listen to the advice from his parents and from God. And that led him into a relationship that he was advised not to go into. And that led to his downfall, unfortunately.
So the importance of parents.
And really people around you in general, right?
Yeah.
And I think what really stands out with Samson to me is he had never had the issue before of not telling people, right? He had always known.
Right.
But for some reason in his mind, this is my wife, and it's like almost like he was compromising standards that he had already been set for his own life, that his parents had set in him. But I'm in love now. So those fundamental things that he knew that were passed on to him, and it was a spiritual thing for him as well, right? And yet still he was setting it aside for this woman that he had found and that he had fallen in love with, and so that ended up being his demise. So
and it's funny because it's Samson fell in love with Delilah because of an encounter of her helping him. And it just kind of, for me, it teaches or it shows how hopeless romantics have an issue of attention.
Yep.
Any attention that they get, they respond to it without thinking. It's just like, here's the attention. Someone's giving me some type of attention. It may not even be my type, and I know it's not right, but I'm going to go anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and that's scary.
Yes.
That's scary. Like, we just quick to react, impulsive. You just make impulsive decisions without thinking because you're like, I love this. Somebody loves me.
And that's what we think. But, that person could just be used to having those type of conversations regularly.
And then when your parents step in the picture, like you're saying, people around you who love you, who know you, and know what it is that you want or expect out of a man or whatever, or out of life. And then when they're able to judge and see that, okay, maybe this person is not okay, and they give you advice, you're not even willing to hear it.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. You're not even willing to hear it. The people are cautioning you. They're warning you, like, don't do this because this and this is going to happen. And you're like, no, because they love me or they show me so much love. You know, that's unfortunate. And we see it play out all the time, especially in women. Any attention you get, it doesn't matter who it is. Attention will kill you.
But I think it's also important to look at his parents. Sometimes I think we as people think our parents don't know what's best for us. So we try to do our own thing, try to figure it out. Even though parents might have not liked what you've done, they still were there to support him. But it's unfortunate when we can't, you know, listen to the advice of our parents because they are wiser. Sometimes their approach might not be the best, but they have great intentions for the most part.
Now, when do you think is an appropriate time to let your parents know about an individual? From the jump, or when you know that this is it?
I think it's important the type of relationship you have with your parents, because that kind of determines what you feel comfortable sharing with them. Because if I don't get along with my parents, then I'm not going to say anything until maybe it's a year in, when I know it's like serious and we're about to get married and this is for a short thing. But for me, I'm pretty comfortable with my mom. So I kind of let her know I'm interested in someone. She'll want to look at pictures and want to approve. But I have that open dialogue with her. Obviously, she'll give me advice, and it's up to me to either listen or not.
Now, Sinead, where do we draw the line in terms of taking our parents' advice?
I think it's important for you to expose whomever you're interested in from the jump, like from the beginning, to your surroundings in general. Even if it's not your parents, if you're not necessarily close to your parents, but definitely to individuals around you, because it's important to also be able for you to see them in those settings, right? For them to be able to see that individual, especially for them as individuals who know you, but for you to see them, how do they relate to those people? Because you may know somebody one-on-one and you get along fine, but then you go in public, you go with them in certain settings and you're like, oh no,
I don't know that. Different person.
This person has no manners, this person, and you don't know those things. So sometimes we are very set on, this is my life, this is my private life, and I want to, it's me and I'm keeping it. But you don't actually get to know that person. And you don't want to wait until a year down when you're now engaged or whatever it is. And now you're like, oh no, right?
Exactly.
So I think that's first of all important. But then even with the advice of these individuals around you, right? I do think that we have to be mindful. Fair enough, our parents, they're wise. They come with wisdom. Experience is wisdom. And we need to take that into account. But generations are different. Life is different. And there is aspects of you that they don't know. Right? So there might be things that they're thinking, you definitely want this and that in a man. And you're thinking, no, I've never even thought of that.
Because they have an idea of what the perfect man is for you. And that's not my man.
You know what my grandmother told me? She wants to see me with a pastor.
And that's
Sorry.
And that's real though, because like you probably want a scientist, they want you to be a pastor,
and you're thinking,
and you're like, no.
That's on my do not list.
I think it's important to take advice that has to do with principle and not opinion.
Yes.
If it's principle, we can talk. Because there are so many things that, violation of principle comes with curses, and that's real. When it comes with opinion,
like how he looks.
I'm gonna do what I want to do, but I'll take into account whatever you're saying, like you're saying. But I can't take all the advice and have people running my life. There's a reason why I'm owning this. There's a reason why it's my life.
And they just have to have some faith in us that we kind of know what we're looking for.
But they grew you, right? Like our parents should have that faith that even when we are not in agreement, they understand that I have taught you to be independent, because that should be the aim, right? It's not for you to be a clone of me, but to be your own person. Obviously with those principles that I've set out, and they should trust that, but it's also for us to understand that they do trust that. Sometimes we don't allow our parents to see us as adults because we're not being adults in our own lives.
Preach the word. Preach the word.
If we continue to be children, they will be like, I have to baby you because you are acting as a child.
Exactly. I was going to say,
So it's for us to definitely not assert yourself and not think of counsel, but to use our reasonable thought to see this is counsel, these are principles. Because even with Samson, it wasn't the cultural, it was because they knew of the risks, because of his strength. And they knew of his enemies, why they were saying that. So use that, understand where they're coming from. Don't forget now because you're feeling judged, they don't like my man. So even when they're telling you things that make sense, you're throwing it away. No, take a step back and think about where they're coming from. And I think it'll be easier for you to really rationalize what to take and what not to take, where to draw the line.
Exactly. Sure. And that's the problem with hopeless romantics. Like I said, reason and judgment are thrown right out the door. So they never want to hear any of that. And they're just going to make their decisions no matter what cautions, warnings come their way. And it's like they know. It's not they don't know. Yes. These are people who know what it is that is expected from them, what is right. But like we said, it's the problem of lust and passion, you know? And so how do you then differentiate true love from infatuation?
Infatuation.
Yeah, let's just pause on this
infatuation?
Infatuation. So I associate infatuation with like lusting for an individual rather than loving someone, right?
Right.
So love, you could get in a debate all day what love is.
Right.
God is love. But we know what love is not.
Right.
And I think that's where we need to remember that. Like if it is hurting you, and it's not about saying that there's not going to be any issues. That's not it. Because some people say, oh, it doesn't hurt me. And so if we have a little argument, this could not be love. No, that's not what it is. But it's that you should not have to, principles are there to guide you. And if you find those principles, those fundamental principles of your spirituality, of your life, of your family are now being thrown out the window without caution, I would caution you to take a step back.
But do you know how easy, it's so easy to say, like, I know what love is not, I know what love is. But in reality, there are many women and many men who have fallen in love and everything is good. You're being treated lovely. Everything is nice. There is peace. Like you said, you have your little, mishaps, but you're able to resolve conflict and communicate as adults. But it's the principle, the violation of principle. And it usually happens like this. You start to see yourself repelling God. And you're taken away and you don't realize it's an issue, but you know, but you don't realize it's a big issue because you still have hope that this situation can possibly change. And now you don't have an interest in anything religious.
Wow.
Well, that's why it's important for you and your partner to be on the same page around what you believe in and what your principles are. Those are like fundamental to your relationship and guide it.
But you're talking about people who have a reason, people who know what love is and who are connected to God.
Yeah.
But it's very easy to wake up one day and not be connected.
Yep.
And want love so bad because your security comes in relationships. Your security is not in God. And I think that's the underlying issue is this: your security and happiness is in people and relationships and not God. And when that's the case, reason is out in any aspect of your life, whether it's relationships, career, whatever it is. You're all about passion. You're all about feeling. And one day you're happy, one day you're sad, and that's how your decisions fluctuate. You're all over the place. The underlying issues is your lack of stability and your foundation in God and the Word.
Yeah, and God is love, and once you know God, that's when you know how to love. So that's the basis.
And I think that is key, as you've said, that up and down, and it's intense to think about that, because really and truly, whenever we put our desires and our value in anything earth level, like earthbound, whether it be people, career, possessions, that's wavering. These are things that go up and down
and
all
it can
the time.
be taken away.
Yeah, and even your own emotions, they're so up and down all the time. And it's almost, you have to almost take a step back from even yourself and really think like, I can't even put my faith in myself. And that's why when people even preach that, like, believe in myself, I'm fickle.
And
right?
That's why they say love is not a feeling, it's an action.
Yes.
Because feelings change.
And not just an action, an action that's grounded in principle. Love is a principle. Not even the action, but principle yields. Whether love is blind, or if love is off a feeling or principle, it's going to yield an action. So it's not the action part that's important.
Yeah.
Because people who feel, definitely you see the action. It's principle and motion that's important. And it's crazy because we're talking about like the fluctuating. People who are hopeless romantics generally are all over the place in terms of taste. One day they could be with a scientist. The next day it's a doctor. The next day it's an astronaut. The next month it's a dog walker. No, they're all over the place. They don't know. They think they know what they want, or they know what they want. But their mind is telling them that they can get everything and anything.
But I think it's because they are, again, it's the desperation. And it's you see crumbs leading to what you actually want, and they're just following it because this is a direction that is taking them as close as they feel they're going to get right now, right? And it's that when there's a void, filling that void is so, you don't even realize it. You're there and you're there, right? And that's literally why we're supposed to be feeding on the word, to not allow for that void that we will now fill with random things. And for some people, it's not relationships. No. Some people, it's other things, and that's just how it is, right? But it's because there's that void, and now you're trying so that you'll fill it with anything. Dog walker today and doctor tomorrow.
And that just shows that you don't know what you want for yourself, because if you're just looking for from person to person, what are you looking for in that relationship? What is the basis of the relationship? Do you just want a man in your arm, or is there a reason why you're with that person? And there's some underlying issues if you're not able to recognize what that's about. Like, there's a lot going on for that person.
And it shows how unstable you are in the mind. They're generally people who are usually very intelligent, but they're very unstable.
Yeah, their dating history is terrible.
And it's really dangerous. But so that brings us to our second part of our conversation now. Now we're going to be looking at our cautions.
So our first caution comes from Proverbs 4, verse 23. And it reads, "Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life."
Now let's break down that verse. Keep thy heart with all what? Diligence. What is diligence?
Well, diligence is staying attuned to God and focusing on what the goal is, and
Consistency.
Consistency,
not rigid, but it's that same, like there's a scale. There's something that is keeping the principle. There's standards. There's consistent standards.
There you go. It's like a hedge of protection.
Yes.
That's how I picture it in practical sense, like protection, security guards blocking it. So keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life. Wow. It's that part. Your mind, because when the Bible talks about the heart, it's talking about the mind. Because the only thing your heart does is pump blood. It's talking about the mind, because that's where everything, all your decision making, how you feel, comes from the mind. So if it's saying to keep your heart with all, or your mind with all diligence, because out of it comes the issues of life, it means the origin of issues or problems begin in the mind. But the damage begins here. And that comes from what you feed your mind with. And so this verse is reminding us to guard the avenues of your soul. You have 5 senses. What are they? Like hearing, smell, touch, seeing. I don't even know. But all those senses are the entry points of your mind.
Yes.
And if you don't guard that, you're in trouble. And sometimes people start to create problems that don't even exist. Like I said, it's the instability of the mind comes from someone who doesn't know where they're going, doesn't have a focus, doesn't have a goal. And so anything can come in, anything can go out.
And I think it is important. Obviously, it's recognizing that, especially as adults, we are in charge of our own lives, right? Obviously, God, we put even that decision that he's given us choice to be able to put our life in his hands, right? Ultimately, it is still our choices. And it's also recognizing, however, that there are things that are in our external that do affect our minds. Specifically, we're talking about relationships. Acknowledging the fact that maybe you aren't from a stable home. with two parents that have
Yes.
set up that standard of what love is and what love isn't. Maybe you are a female that does not have a father in her life. And I feel that we do ourselves injustice when we don't recognize those things because they affect us, right? And it's recognizing how those things contribute to how you perceive life, how you perceive love, and how you receive and give love.
Preach.
And so for me, it's important, first of all, it is our responsibility at the end of your adults and the things that have come, you still choose what is to come, right?
Yeah.
However, do not ignore
Accept
those
your
things.
condition.
Accept it, because that's the only way you're gonna not allow it to hold you back.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah, you're saying a good point there because, I come from a divorced family and both my parents have remarried. And my dad always says to me, don't become a statistic. And he reminds me of that like literally probably once a month. Don't become a statistic. And at first I was like, what is this man talking about? I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, listen, you're more likely to block your emotions and walk away from situations because you've seen us do that.
wow.
And that's not ideal, and that's not what God wants. But it happened. The reality is, it's happened.
Yep, for sure.
But you're not gonna be okay like another female who probably wants love so hard because she needs that void filled. She might not have a father or whatever it is. She'll be okay with taking anything because she wants it so bad. But you look at it differently. You're like, I'm not gonna put up with this because my mom didn't. And he's like, you are more likely to become a statistic. So it just reminds me, and I'm in relationships and I always have like trouble with communication. I'm like, no, I literally don't care. Any problem, I'm like, no problem. Goodbye. I can find something better. And it's actually something I have to accept. As years have gone by now, I'm like, no, I need to accept my condition. Like I literally think like that. No problem, going home.
But at least you recognize it so
Yes.
you can change it.
And that's it. And sometimes we think that acknowledging that means that it's limiting you.
No.
It's not. And I think I commend parents and individuals that are gonna sit their children down and say, listen, this has been my life. My life does influence you. And don't allow it to influence you in the negative. And that's the thing. A lot of these things that are set up to hold us back could be our strengths. There are other people that have those issues that aren't necessarily for the same reasons, but because you have it in your mind or you've seen that, you would be a person like, you know what, I do need to communicate better and be willing to. And you might actually be the individual is actually better at that now due to that realization that you are more susceptible to those conditions. And it's just recognizing that and finding ways to combat that and move forward. And I think that's just important to do it because nothing is more dangerous than those that you are not even aware of. The parts of you that you're not even aware of, you're not even acknowledging them, that's when it gets you.
And then you bring it into a relationship and then that causes issues as well.
Yep.
Now back to guarding your senses. Do you think what we see or allow ourselves to see in terms of the internet, social media, have an effect on what we think romance should look like or relationship? Because I feel like a lot of hopeless romantics are pretty much constructed and developed out of social media. Because we have this idea of like, okay, Instagram looks like this, these Instagram couples look like this, and this is what I want. And you're so like quick to just make a decision because you need Instagram pictures.
Yeah, relationship goals.
Relationship goals.
Pictures.
Get a YouTube channel.
For the pictures.
And that's real. Like it sounds crazy when you think about it,
Yes.
but you find yourself like, hey, this guy's cute enough to look like an Instagram post. And that's real. And that's real. Like he could be a nice guy and you're like, you ain't tall. Your smile isn't cutting it.
I only show half of you.
Yeah.
And you become
ridiculous.
You become a hopeless romantic.
Yes.
You're literally hopeless romantics are not looking for what is right.
Not
They're
the
looking
right
for
things.
anything.
Yes.
Anything that will just take them away. And that's crazy.
And it really goes back to what Chantal had kind of given her example. It's that your ideas of what love is and these ideologies, maybe it's through social media and through those things, but the people that are posting on social media, you're not in their homes.
No.
You don't
You're
know what
not in
happens
their lives. You're not
behind.
waking up with them.
No.
They have their weaves on and their wigs on,
Yeah.
but those are coming off.
Yeah.
Especially like this Don't Rush challenge, we're seeing the before and after. So,
Ridiculous.
what's happening, how they look before.
ridiculous.
But no, that's actually reality. Like, we have to be careful what we allow our minds to even take in.
Yes.
Because that's where everything, like, you know, the issues of life spring right here. Everything, good or bad, stems from what you allow in your mind. And so your idea of what a relationship is like is what you feed your mind with. If it's like you're saying, if it's just, you know, your background, your family life, then that's what you're going to exhibit and that's what you're going to become.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
even movies, when we used to
Exactly.
watch those Disney movies, the prince is going to come and save me.
That's what you think love
Yes,
is? Cinderella,
exactly.
shoe.
Get my shoes, but it don't work like that.
And I do think obviously it's a combination of things. And I don't think it's wrong to have that, like, I want romance, right? No one's taking out romance and those things and wanting an individual to be a gentleman or a lady. However, it is bringing down to reality, like what is real life? What are actually the real things? It's not how tall he is. Hallelujah, somebody.
How he looks in a suit. Yeah.
Yes. But it's really like that person, that tall guy that is doing all sorts of things, but who is a person really to you, and what is the relationship, and what is the relation and the interaction like? And it's sometimes, and I think obviously as we get older, we do kind of become more realistic with our view. I would hope, you know, at least this is what I've seen from the individuals around me. There comes where you realize,
But how many hits are you going to take until you realize this is what I should be doing? You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, sometimes we want God to put us in a position, and he doesn't like doing that, where he has to, like, put you in, like, lock you in a corner, make all these bad things happen to you until you give in. But, like, we can't live life like that. Like, it's better to submit now than later, because you still are going to have to suffer with the scars.
Yeah.
You get hit, you're going to have to
And
heal.
then you bring those into your relationships.
And that's the reality of it. It's like, how many hits are you going to take?
Well, I learn from my friends. I watch what they put up with, and I say, I'm not putting up with that. So that kind of allows me to think about what is important for me in my relationship.
Right. And so it's like, hopeless romantics allow passion to rule them.
Yes.
And so they judge everything out of a mindset of, like, false ideologies. And true love is based on assessment of character.
Yeah.
A hopeless romantic can deny somebody for being short.
True. Amen. Speak on it.
When they are short themselves.
Preach somebody.
But
when you're grounded in principle, and they have a good character,
Amen,
and a foundation in the Lord,
hallelujah,
the shortness goes right out the door.
Hallelujah.
And that's growth.
Yes.
And it's funny because I was, you know, at church, you, like, talk to old ladies and they're like, listen, we all wanted 6-packs growing up, but look what I got. It's like this little man. And they're like, that's real though. That's actually love.
Yes.
Like, if I can tell you one thing, don't fall for the 6-packs, you know? That's growth.
Yes.
And it's hard. It's hard to accept, you know? And the greatest battle is against self, because I constantly have to pray like, God, this is how I'm feeling.
Yes.
And I have to accept my feelings. This is what I know is right. So help me. Give me the strength to go with what is right.
Yes,
and that's
for sure.
hard. And that's why the foundation of the word comes into play here, because it's not in your own strength that you do anything. Don't ever think you can resist the devil or resist yourself. The foundation of hell, the reason why Satan was cast out was because of self.
Yes.
That's sin. Self. Putting self. And you have to pray, God, suppress self and may principle, you know, rule. And that's hard.
Yes.
Because even hopeless romantics, they have moments when they're like, okay, I know it's right, I'm gonna try it. And then they find themselves back at square one.
Yep.
Because you're not willing to submit to God. So you must submit to God before you find a man.
Yeah.
You must submit to God before you look at the woman. You know?
And I think, and that's the thing, right? When we think about our feelings, because we'll excuse them. We'll say, well, this is just what I like. It's just whatever. It's no,
He's
but
my
when you are
type.
actually grounded in the principles, and when you're actually looking for the right things, and God gives you his eyes instead of these human eyes that we have,
Yes.
you don't even see the height.
It's important though.
No, and you're right. You're actually right. You don't. When you start to look at the lens of spiritual, you do not see the height.
100% these things, and people will be like, "Oh, but I thought you," and you're like, "I didn't even think about those things."
Preach
and
the word, somebody.
Because there's like a like the real things will really show, and
The
that's
character.
just 100%.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. But
it takes God to work on you.
Only Him.
Only Him. Mm-hmm.
Like I'm saying, you gotta accept. It's like emotions. You gotta accept the emotions. You can't mask it. So I can't be fake and think like I'm just gonna throw out what I've always wanted because that's not realistic.
No,
you literally have to plead with God to say, "Help me! I do what I don't want to do, but I know what I want to do, but I can't do it." You know. So Satan cannot enter your mind without consent.
Wow.
And we like to blame stuff on Satan. There's one preacher who said, if Satan were to die today, people would still sin tomorrow. And I said,
power.
Whoa. I said, you right.
100%.
That's a word.
You are right, because I would still do it. So it's like we love to blame Satan for everything. And it's like he needs, just like how God needs consent, Satan needs consent.
Yes.
So when you allow your mind, when you allow yourself to be educated by anything outside the word, every decision you make is going to lead to just unhappiness. Because you said, peace I have, peace I am. I am love.
Amen.
So if you don't know me, you don't know what love is. If you don't know me, you'll never have peace. And we want to look for peace and love everywhere else, knowing that this is the only source.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate.
Yep.
Yes.
So literally the caution is Satan will do everything he can to paralyze you, to lead us to ignore caution, warnings, reproof from God. And if we can ignore God, we will definitely lose our way.
Yes, for sure.
And he'll send people, while the feeling may be nice, I always say it, Satan fattens the pig for the slaughter. He gives you a hook to hang yourself.
Yes.
And he makes it long first. And you are so happy. And when you hang yourself, he just laughs. And that's unfortunate. And we're willing to literally play with Satan and say, fatten me up, then slaughter me. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we just need to take heed according to his word and let it transform us. And so that brings us to our promise. Now, our promise can be found in Psalm 37, verse 23 and 24. Psalm 37, verse 23 to 24. And it reads, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. Though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholdeth him with his hand. And so let's break that down verse by verse. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. Good people are directed by God.
Amen.
So when you're directed by anything outside of the word, and it's not going to be a voice that comes out from the sky that says, Shanae, this is the man. No, he's not going to do that. But the word alone will lead you. And when we talk about God directing you, you need to position yourself in alignment with his law and his word. And everything that you do now will make sense. It won't be forced. Things will just fall into place. But we like to think like there's going to be this voice that says, this is the one. This career, this is it.
It'd be nice.
As you scroll down.
It would be nice.
It would be nice.
But that's not how it works. And people are like, I'm forever like trying to figure out the voice of God, the voice of God. No, there's no miraculous thing that's going to happen. You need to be in alignment with him. Good things can happen to bad people.
Yes.
But you got to ask, who is it coming from? You know? Like, who is the blessing coming from?
And for obviously some people, they literally have those testimonies where they're like, God spoke to me. And 100%. But not everyone's relationship with God is that. And if you're in the word and you are constantly communicating with him, you will know how he speaks to you, and you will his voice to you won't be the same way he speaks to everyone else. And it's important also to recognize that he does also just give some things. It's not this one. He's giving you the standards, he's giving you the guidelines, and if you follow those principles, then
and mind you, he allows you to make decisions.
Yes.
We forget, we think God is just like, I have the one for you, or I have this for you and you must do this.
Yes.
He watches your reactions, just like Satan. He studies you and he's like, okay, this is my child. She likes this. She's like, oh, she's not feeling this. So let me now compromise. Let me help her. I know what's good for her, but I'm going to take into account what she likes, just like any other parent. I'm not going to give you what you don't like unless they know for sure you don't know what it is that you want, you know, and that's how God deals with us. Then the next part says, though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down. So we will make mistakes. Good people make mistakes. But a righteous man gets back up, dusts himself off, and walks.
Yes.
And that's how good God is.
Yes.
You will make mistakes. But that doesn't mean that you purposely make a mistake and then say, well, you know, a righteous man gets back up. No. It's the motive. God judges the motive that prompts the act. And sometimes your motives may be in the right place, but you just make a wrong decision. It happens. It literally happens because we're human, you know. But he says you won't be utterly cast down. You won't stay down for long. You'll get right back up.
Yeah, you just have to ask for forgiveness.
For the Lord upholdeth him with his hand. So, you know, just for being reminded with relationships, if we stay within the bounds of God's word, do what he says, listen to him, guard the avenues of our souls, make sure that whatever is coming into whatever we feed our mind with is the word, then he will never leave us nor forsake us. And he'll uphold us with his right hand. So we shouldn't let passion rule us. We should let principle have its last say.
Amen.
And so that brings us to the end of our discussion. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share with your family, your friends. Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Amen.
This is I Testify Conversation Station.